Today I have some additional details in part of the story I told last week. I didn't have time to give you all the details, so I'm kind of going back and picking up some details that I want you to think about, especially if you're a big kid and you were wondering about this. The pictures I showed you of Adam and Eve were incorrect in a way, because I told you that they started out as naked people. They didn't care if they had clothes on. Well, I didn't have pictures of naked people. But do you know what? You have an imagination and you know what skin looks like. And I don't have to show you pictures of naked people. In fact, I won't show you pictures of naked people, because I have a feeling that wouldn't be good manners at all. But in the garden, Adam and Eve started out as naked people. And they probably lived that way for a long time, maybe even 100 years before they made their bad decision. Who knows? It doesn't tell us. But they were very happy in the garden. And then when they made their bad decision, then they put on some clothes that they made for themselves out of leaves. Well, do leaves last very long? Do they hold up? I don't think so. And God probably kind of laughed at them for trying to do it their way. He ended up, before he sent them out of the garden, he ended up giving them clothes made from animals. And that shows us that we are supposed to wear clothes, and we can use animal skins. We can use animals for different things, because that's what God made them for. They're wonderful things to have in the garden. Animals, we talked about that. The other point was there was an angel that stood in front of the gate when they were sent out, and the angel had a fiery sword. And I would have thought that would be very scary in a way. But what it meant was they were not allowed back into the beautiful garden. And it was a way to keep them out. The angel that God sent would not allow anyone to go back into that garden. And remember, I talked about that God still wants us to be with him, but the beautiful garden he has prepared is in heaven. Then there was one other point I wanted to add to the story last week. I talked about Satan and how he deceived Eve. What he said was, God didn't tell you everything. That he told her that she would be like God. She and Adam would be like God if they ate the fruit. Well, that was not true. It was a lie. And then he told them that they would not die. But they did die because they were separated from God. That's a separation. That's what dying is. And later on, after they had gotten out of the gardens, at some point they died. And one of the things that happened that I didn't put in the story last week was what God did to Satan. He punished him too. Now, Satan is the being that talked Eve into eating the apple. It wasn't an apple. It was a piece of fruit. We don't know what kind of fruit it was, but we always talk about Eve ate an apple just because we know it's a fruit. don't worry about that, because I don't think that matters too much what kind of fruit it was. It was the fruit that they were not supposed to eat. And did you know Satan doesn't have the miraculous power like God has? He couldn't make her do it, except that she chose to do it. His only power is persuasion. Now, we've seen people try to persuade us to do something that was wrong, and we have to decide whether we can be persuaded enough, whether we're smart enough to get rid of the bad stuff. And that's what Satan tries to get us to do, and he can't do it miraculously. He can only do it if we cooperate with him, and God doesn't want us to cooperate with the devil. Did you know that everybody has a way to stop the devil? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but let me tell you what happened to the devil, or Satan. I don't know which way to call him. Some people say Satan and some people call the devil. He was a bad one. But the Lord said unto the serpent, he called him a serpent. I don't know of too many people that like snakes or serpents. It may not have been just like a snake. It may have been just an old slimy creature. I don't know. Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field, and upon thy belly thou shalt go, and the dust thou shalt eat all the days of thy life. And I'll put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So God put a curse on old Satan, and he had to crawl on his belly to that was a bad curse, but he deserved it, and he would crawl like a snake all the rest of his being time. We'll talk more about what Satan did throughout the time in the Bible, the times in the Bible when he's mentioned. But what we should learn from it is he doesn't have the same power as God has. God has all power. He can work miracles, and Satan cannot work a miracle. But he does know how to lie and persuade people to do things that they shouldn't. Now, people have a way to make up their own mind. That's what I'm talking about. We have a mind, and we have a soul that God gave us. And that gives us the ability to make decisions, right or wrong. And we have our own imagination. Like I told you before, you know that Adam and Eve didn't have clothes on, but you didn't have to see it on a picture board like I had. But you could see it in your own mind, because you know what you look like when you don't have clothes on, and you know that what skin looks like. Everybody's skin is a little different color, and we have an imagination. We can figure things out. But there's a lot of other abilities that God gave us in our soul and our mind. We have the ability to plan ahead. We can plan what we're going to do. Sometimes our plans get changed, but we can plan out that we want to be good, and then all we have to do is do it. So that's how God gave us the ability to get rid of old Satan, is we plan to be good. God gave us the ability to hope. When things go wrong, we can hope things get better, and it builds us up and makes us stronger. And we also have the ability to pray and to see the spiritual side of life. We can pray to God, and we can think about spiritual things, things that are not touchable, like the Garden of Eden was something they could touch. They could see the trees. They can see the animals. They could see the angel that stood at the gate to keep them out. But God gave us the ability to see His heavenly place that's perfect, and it's a place that we can live in when we don't live here anymore. And that is full of hope, and it's full of spiritual thinking. And spiritual thinking doesn't mean that it's not real. It's truly real. It's just not part of what we have now. And those are the things that I wanted to add to the story, that I had trouble getting them in correctly at the time. So this is an added part of the story, and that finishes the creation part, except that the people lived on, and they made mistakes, and they corrected their mistakes when they could or would. And that's the way we're supposed to do. We have hope to see God someday. Thank you.